Good morning. This is Mayor Tom Oleary from the City of Galion, putting together a quick YouTube, multi-purpose actually. One is to update our citizens. One purpose is to update our citizens on measures that we're asking for relief from state government for. And the other is to talk directly to our state officials using this new medium. I felt like the governor and his key staff are using kind of YouTube and 21st century technology to communicate. So rather than sending an email or texting or something as quaint as a letter soliciting Reardon McLean, I thought we would just go ahead and shoot this YouTube and send it down to Reardon, talk with him about this idea. So what we're going to do today is just spend a couple of minutes going through a number of issues that the City of Galion believes we need some relief from the General Assembly. So here we go. When you look at the city's situation as a result of the public health emergency and the related shutdowns, we have some fairly obvious issues but are important to mention. And that is that we expect, unfortunately, to see our income tax dramatically reduced as a result of the stay-at-home order and some of the previous cutbacks. One of the things that's important to remember is that for those people laid off and who are successful in getting on unemployment, which is another issue I won't digress into, but those people will not have withholding, and therefore will have an entire drop in our income tax from local sources. So I think that's important to note. Our income tax revenue will drop off very substantially. Furthermore, we're not sure, we hope that this social responsibility theme carries over to our corporate taxpayers and withholders of income tax. But there's no guarantee that all of those businesses will withhold and remit those obligations, both on the individual but also on the corporate income tax side. So we're concerned about a pretty significant drop in income tax revenue, that unemployment compensation won't in any way fill that void. Secondly, we're looking at, with the shutting down of the BMVs, City of Galion has a 20% license plate tag. I know it seems like a small number at the state level, but we'll lose about $16,000 a month every month until then, and that is is really our key source for any kind of capital improvements, any kind of paving program. So we expect that insignificant source of revenue to decline. Probably the most important source of revenue that we're going to experience a reduction in are utility revenues. As you know, both Galionites and Representative McLean, Galion is a municipal utility, and so we're hoping that the state legislature is open to allowing our electric provider, Amp Ohio, to have ample access to a line of credit to enable us to be able to, if you will, stay afloat. Now, clearly the investor-owned utilities are going to have rate relief, and we're going to have rate relief in terms of not shutting people off. But our resources, our fund balances, our wherewithal is significantly different than some of the larger investor-owned utilities. And while I think you generally know that, you don't think about it, perhaps with other issues in the forefront of your mind. So relief for Amp Ohio in terms of being able to supply an expanding line of credit for cities like Galion, who are very likely to have their power bill be greater than the revenue we collect from our residences and businesses. So I think it's extremely important. Of a lesser category, that's in Galion a $13 million issue, the revenue we need to collect to run our electric utility. We have a somewhat smaller but probably more acute concern about our water fund and sewer fund. And while we have adequate balances to carry us through several months of non-payment, which we expect. We really would like the General Assembly to consider offering forgiveness on any of the loans that we have in our water utility, and which we do in both water and sewer, and those would be OWDA loans. So some sort of consideration by the General Assembly to give us some debt relief on those issues, I think is going to be extremely important. I think also the same applies to Ohio Public Works, OPWC loans. I think many communities in your jurisdiction have some level of loan, most of those being serviced by ratepayers in the water and sewer utilities. So I think that's also an important thing to get some guidance on out of state government, whether OWDA and Ohio Public Works will be giving some relief, some relaxation on the debts that local governments are going to owe them, but will have decreasing fund balances with which to make those payments. Next category of things I think that we want you to be open-minded and look at are any of the enforcement actions in the very short term that come from ODNR, EPA, and any of the other regulatory agencies at the state level that oversee the operation of our reservoirs and our drinking water and our staffing and operation of our treatment plants. Local government officials don't need to be told by state government that we have an obligation to provide clean drinking water, but how the EPA works with Galion and other cities, how the ODNR works with Galion and other cities to follow up on some of the compliance and enforcement actions that exist out there, going to be real critical if we're going to be able to work together over the next several months. On a more tactical or practical level, the state has a number of requirements that require us to collect and deposit cash daily in order to stay in compliance. Those sort of daily cash requirements perhaps need to be looked at. We don't want to keep any more people on staff in spite of the directive on what is an essential or non-essential employees. So we're looking at ways to be able to reduce the number of hours that our important finance staff and billing office staff have to log and have to be exposed to the general public. And I think maybe one of the last things, and this maybe I may have to come back to you, Reardon, and come back to the citizens to explain some other things that we're concerned about, but also the municipal income tax deadline. That, particularly because we have conformed with the state requirements under income tax collections, our date is attached or tied to the state income tax filing deadline. So while I'm sure that may be under consideration in the General Assembly, we certainly want to make sure that it allows us, cities, to extend the deadline on our municipal income tax collection to whatever date into 2020 that the General Assembly provides for state income taxpayers. So our ability to waive that and provide some latitude is really contingent, as we understand it, on the state income tax filing deadline. So to summarize, we really need some relief from the state lenders in allowing us to push back some of our debt payments until this crisis subsides. I can't emphasize enough to state officials how quickly our revenue, even with some sufficiency of fund balances in our water and sewer utilities, how quickly those revenues will dry up if people don't have the cash and they're not subject to shut off. And the fact that we will find our ability to meet our debt obligations becoming more and more under pressure sooner and sooner. So if we can get that kind of relief from those state lenders, it would be outstanding. We also, as I said before, need some assistance in having the ODNR EPA group that regulate a lot of our water collection distribution systems, have them understand that our ability to comply with all that we've said we would in other action plans is limited, because we simply we worry about our ability to pay our employees, and we certainly are very concerned of our ability to fund other kind of measures that may be required by state government. So in an attempt not to go on and get into issues of maybe a smaller degree, or offer up the frustration that is felt at the local level, I want to thank you for listening, and hopefully this is an effective means for you to share some of our prime concerns and share them effectively and quickly with some of your other key General Assembly members. So thanks again. I appreciate the open door you've extended to Galleon, and talk to you soon, Representative McLean, and the rest of Gallion's listeners, viewers. Good day.